Welcome, dear listener, to Dreamtime Science, a haven of peace beneath the vast, sleeping sky. Picture yourself in a small, cozy alcove, cushions gently stacked around you, dim candles casting flickering shadows on the old wooden shelves nearby. The air is still, and outside the stars watch quietly like ancient guardians. We are grateful you've chosen to step into this hush with us. If you feel moved by the gentle tales we share, a quiet like or subscription would be a welcome echo, and please do whisper in the comments where your quiet place may be. Now, before we begin, adjust the softness beneath your head. Close your eyes if you wish, and fill your lungs with a deep, slow breath. Together we will embark on a tender voyage where science takes on the silky cloak of night, inviting your thoughts to rest and your imagination to soar gently toward sleep. Shall we begin? Tonight we'll be gliding very slowly, very gently, into a world where ancient whispers stir, a place where the echoes of dinosaurs drift softly through time. With a safe, pillow-soft distance, we'll explore the delicate dance of DNA and dreams, wondering if those magnificent creatures might one day return from the past. Let's drift together into this quiet curiosity where science meets the gentle stirrings of imagination. Your support through likes and subscriptions keeps this peaceful corner of knowledge illuminated. Share your time zone in the comments. I love mapping our constellation of dreamers. Now take a moment, adjust your blanket, find the perfect hollow in your pillow, let your shoulders melt, breathe in and out. In the hush of twilight, as the world softens and the clamor of day dissolves into reverie, let your mind drift to a place just at the edge of memory and imagination, a place where enormous shadows stir in the fern-laden mist, where the earth quivers beneath the tread of ancient giants. Dinosaurs, those magnificent enigmas of prehistory, have haunted the human imagination since the first bone was pried from the earth, their colossal forms lingering in the collective dreamscape of our species. It is in the delicate twilight between what was and what could be that the spell of these lost creatures is at its most potent. For as long as there have been stories, there have been monsters, beings that dwell at the margins of knowledge, embodying both our fears and our awe. Yet the dinosaur, paradoxically, is a monster made real, a beast whose bones are catalogued in museums, whose footprints are etched in ancient mud, whose teeth have scored the fossilized remains of their prey. Each time a child's eyes widen in wonder before a mounted skeleton, or a film audience holds its breath as a Tyrannosaurus roars across the silver screen, we are drawn once more into the spell, a longing not just to know, but to see, to touch, to bring back. From the fossil beds of the Gobi Desert to the chalk cliffs of England, the story of dinosaurs is also the story of discovery and imagination entwined. The first dinosaur bones to be uncovered in the early 19th century were so alien, so immense, that they inspired more than just scientific curiosity. They provoked awe, terror, and even theological debate. The very word Dinosaur, meaning terrible lizard, echoes with both reverence and fear, a coinage of the Victorian naturalist Sir Richard Owen that captured the essence of these creatures, both wondrous and menacing, familiar yet utterly other. As the centuries turned, the dinosaur became a symbol of vanished worlds, of the Earth's deep and unfathomable past. Each fossil was a message in a bottle from a time when the continents were arranged in unfamiliar patterns, when the air was thick with ferns and dragonflies as big as birds. Yet it was not enough simply to unearth their bones. The human mind, ever restless, yearned to breathe life into them once more. We sketched them in the pages of scientific treatises, sculpted them in plaster for grand exhibitions, and eventually, as technology advanced, conjured them in the electric dreams of cinema and literature. The allure of the dinosaur is, in part, the allure of resurrection. In the flickering light of campfires or the glow of screens, we ask ourselves, what if they could walk among us again? The question tugs at something deep within, the ancient yearning to witness the vanished, to undo the finality of extinction, to make time itself malleable. The act of imagining a living dinosaur with its leathery skin and flashing eyes is a kind of magic, a spell that bridges the chasm between the present and the lost eons. Science fiction, with its boundless imagination, seized upon this desire and made it manifest. In the pages of novels and the reels of film, dinosaurs stride from their graves and stalk the living world, sometimes as terrors, sometimes as wonders. The most iconic of these dreams is, of course, Jurassic Park, a modern myth that captured the public consciousness like few stories before it. Michael Crichton's novel and Steven Spielberg's film adaptation did more than simply entertain. They crystallized the fantasy of de-extinction, the notion that science could pluck the DNA of ancient creatures from amber and use it to conjure them anew. To understand the power of this narrative, one must appreciate the symbolic role dinosaurs play in our culture. They are at once the ultimate victims of catastrophe and the ultimate survivors, creatures that dominated the earth for over 150 million years, only to be swept away in a geological heartbeat. Their extinction, likely wrought by the impact of a massive asteroid, stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of life, the impermanence of even the mightiest forms. To bring them back, then, is not merely an act of scientific bravado, it is an act of defiance against oblivion, a reclamation of what was lost. In the hallowed halls of natural history museums, where skeletons loom in poses both predatory and serene, visitors are enveloped by this sense of loss and possibility. Glass cases hold the fossilized eggs of hadrosaurs, the curved claws of dromaeosaurs, the massive femurs of sauropods. Each relic is both a remnant and a prophecy, a testament to the passage of time and a whisper of what might yet return. Children press their faces to the glass, tracing the outlines of the past with eager hands, their minds leapfrogging across epochs. The line between history and fantasy blurs. In their eyes, the dinosaur is alive again. The cultural fascination with dinosaurs is not limited to the West. Across the globe, indigenous peoples have woven the discovery of ancient bones into their own mythologies. In China, so-called dragon bones were ground into medicine centuries before they were recognized as the remains of prehistoric reptiles. In North America, the Sioux told stories of thunderbirds and water monsters, their shapes echoing the fossilized vertebrae and teeth found in the Badlands. The dinosaur, then, is not merely a scientific marvel, but a universal symbol of the unknown, a riddle posed by the earth itself. Yet it is in the technological dreams of our own era that the allure of resurrection becomes most tangible. The concept of de-extinction, the idea that extinct species could be restored to life through the tools of modern biotechnology, has leaped from the pages of fiction into the discourse of serious science. In laboratories around the world, geneticists and molecular biologists tease apart the secrets of DNA, pondering whether the code of lost creatures might be stitched together once more. De-extinction is a word as evocative as it is controversial. It conjures visions of herds of woolly mammoths thundering across Siberian tundra, of passenger pigeons filling the skies, of saber-toothed cats slipping through shadowed forests. But of all the extinct beings it evokes, none looms larger in the public imagination than the dinosaur. The technical hurdles, immense as they are, seem almost secondary to the sheer audacity of the dream. Could science, with all its precision and power, truly reach back across 66 million years and resurrect the tyrants and titans of the Mesozoic? The question is not a simple one, and the answers are nuanced, braided with both hope and humility. For all the advances in cloning and gene editing, the gulf of time that separates us from the age of dinosaurs is vast. DNA, the fragile molecule that encodes the blueprints of life, is not immortal. It degrades, unravels, succumbs to the chemistry of decay. Even in the most exquisitely preserved fossils, the genetic instructions that once shaped a living dinosaur are, so far as we can tell, shattered beyond repair. Still, the dream persists, fueled by stories as much as by science. The very notion of Jurassic Park is a modern fairy tale, a fable about the hubris and hope of humanity. In this story, the ancient world is not gone, but merely sleeping, awaiting the incantation of technology to awaken it. The amber-encased mosquito, a motif at once whimsical and profound, encapsulates the delicate intersection of possibility and impossibility, the tantalizing idea that the past might be preserved in the smallest of vessels, waiting to be unlocked. This tension between the real and the imagined is at the heart of our fascination. We are creatures of narrative after all, and the dinosaur is a character in the grandest story of all, the story of life's rise and fall, of evolution and extinction, of memory and forgetting. To resurrect a dinosaur would be to step outside the bounds of natural history, to blur the line between what is and what was, to play perhaps at being gods. But why does this idea grip us so tightly It is not merely a matter of spectacle, though the image of a living dinosaur is certainly spectacular. Rather, it is a yearning to connect with the deep past, to bridge the immense distances that separate now from then. In the presence of a dinosaur, living, breathing, moving, we would confront not only the mystery of their world, but the mystery of our own origins. For in the long arc of evolution, we too are products of chance and catastrophe, survivors of a lineage that has known both triumph and annihilation. There is as well a kind of melancholy in the dream of resurrection. To bring back what was lost is to admit that loss is real, that extinction is final unless defied. The museum, with its silent bones and echoing halls, is both a sanctuary and a mausoleum, a place where we honor what has vanished, even as we imagine its return. The stories we tell, on page and screen, are spells against forgetting, acts of remembrance as much as invention. The allure of de-extinction, then, is not just the allure of power, but of redemption. We live in an age marked by accelerating loss, species vanishing at an unprecedented rate, ecosystems unraveling beneath the weight of human ambition. In this context, the fantasy of bringing back the dinosaur is both a distraction and a challenge. Can science heal the wounds it has helped to inflict? Can the tools of biotechnological mastery be turned toward restitution rather than exploitation? These are questions that echo through the corridors of science and philosophy alike, questions that find their most vivid expression in the figure of the dinosaur. The act of imagining their return is an act of hope, a gesture toward possibility, yet it is also a meditation on limits, on what can and cannot be restored, on the boundaries between past and present, on the responsibilities that come with knowledge. As the night deepens and the world grows quiet, these questions linger unresolved. In the darkness, the echoes of ancient footsteps resound, and the dream of resurrection flickers on. Science fiction, with its visions of cloned dinosaurs and reborn worlds, offers both a promise and a warning, a reminder that the power to create is inseparable from the power to destroy. The allure of the dinosaur is thus an allure tinged with both wonder and caution. When we gaze upon the bones of the long dead, we are looking not only into the past, but into ourselves. The dream of de-extinction is a mirror, reflecting our desires, our fears, our longing to undo what has been done. It is a story without an ending, a question posed to the future as much as to the past. And so, in the gentle hush before sleep, let the mind wander through these twilight landscapes, across the fields of memory and desire, where dinosaurs roam in shadow and the possibility of their return shimmers like a distant, beckoning star. The story has only just begun, and the path ahead is shrouded in both mystery and promise. Beneath the relentless caress of time, deep within the silent mineral-dense embrace of the earth, the bones of ancient giants slumber in their stony cradles. For over 66 million years, the world above has shifted and changed. Continents have drifted, seas have risen and fallen, mountains have been born and worn away. Yet in certain rare and fortuitous places, the relics of the great lizards linger, awaiting discovery by the persistent patience of paleontologists. To unearth a dinosaur skeleton is to touch a fragment of a lost world, but to reach further, to the very code of life, the gossamer strands of DNA that once spun the story of these creatures, is to attempt something almost miraculous. The journey to crack the ancient code of dinosaur DNA is a tale of longing and limitation, of scientific ingenuity wrestling with the implacable laws of chemistry and decay. Every fossil, no matter how exquisitely preserved, is first and foremost a product of deep time. It is not a simple relic, but a palimpsest, a text overwritten by geology, chemistry, and chance. The hope of finding DNA within such a relic is not unlike searching for a whisper in a thunderstorm or a shadow in the glare of noon. To understand the challenges, let us begin with the very nature of DNA itself. Deoxyribonucleic acid is the molecular script upon which the instructions for life are written. A double helix of extraordinary delicacy, its two intertwining strands held together by the faintest of chemical bonds. In living cells, DNA is remarkably resilient, perpetually copied and repaired, protected by proteins and enzymes. But once life ceases, once the last heartbeat fades and the cell's machinery falls silent, DNA begins to unravel. Nature, ever thrifty, wastes no time. The enzymes that once maintained the genome now turn against it, snipping the strands into fragments. Bacteria and fungi invade, feasting on the soft tissues, releasing their own potent chemicals. Water seeps in, and with each passing year, the molecular bonds within the DNA are battered by a ceaseless barrage of heat, radiation, and chemical reactions. Over a time scale of hundreds or thousands of years, even under the best of circumstances, the long, elegant chains of bases break down, turning into a chaotic tangle of fragments. The half-life of DNA, the time it takes for half the bonds in a DNA molecule to break under average conditions, has been estimated to be around 521 years. This is not a fixed number, for nature is capricious and environment is everything. In the chill, dry darkness of a permafrost tomb, DNA might linger for longer. In the wet, warm embrace of a tropical forest, it would vanish far more swiftly. Yet even in the most forgiving of environments, after 1,000,000 years, the chains are reduced to such small snippets that the story they once told has all but dissolved into noise. Now imagine, if you will, the daunting arithmetic of deep time. The youngest dinosaur fossils are some 66 million years old, over 60,000 times the half-life of DNA under ideal conditions. Even in the most optimistic scenario, the odds of finding intact DNA within a dinosaur fossil are vanishingly small. Not zero perhaps, but so close to it that the pursuit becomes an act of scientific daring, bordering on the quixotic. Yet hope is not so easily extinguished. The romance of resurrecting ancient life has driven scientists to search for ever fainter traces of the ancient code. The tools of modern molecular biology are delicate and precise, designed to coax secrets from the most unyielding of relics. In sterile laboratories, fragments of bone and teeth are ground to powder, bathed in chemicals that dissolve mineral and protein, releasing whatever genetic scraps may remain. The process is painstaking, like assembling a jigsaw puzzle from pieces the size of dust motes, many of which are missing or marred beyond recognition. But there are specters that haunt this endeavor, ghosts of contamination and misinterpretation. DNA is everywhere, in the skin cells shed by the researchers themselves, in the bacteria that have infiltrated the fossil for eons, in the modern creatures that burrowed through the bones in more recent millennia. To distinguish the ancient from the recent is a task of almost forensic subtlety. Every sequence extracted must be scrutinized, compared to databases of modern DNA from humans, bacteria, fungi, birds, reptiles. The line between signal and noise is perilously thin. There have been moments, flickering and controversial, when the scientific world was electrified by claims of dinosaur DNA. In the 1990s, a team led by Dr. Scott Woodward reported the extraction of DNA from a Cretaceous dinosaur bone. The news rippled through the scientific community, igniting imaginations and skepticism in equal measure. But as others attempted to replicate the results, doubts grew. The sequences matched those of modern bacteria, not dinosaurs. The culprit, contamination, that insidious and ever-present foe. Time and again such claims have been dashed upon the rocks of further scrutiny. Each time new lessons are learned about the tenacity of bacterial DNA, about the ease with which modern sequences can infiltrate ancient samples, about the relentless pace of molecular decay. The hope of finding a readable dinosaur genome recedes a little further into the shadows. Yet science, like evolution itself, adapts. If the full genome cannot be recovered, perhaps something less ambitious might be achieved. Proteins, for example, are somewhat more robust than DNA, their folded structures sometimes surviving where the delicate helix cannot. In 2007, Dr. Mary Schweitzer and her team astonished the world by isolating fragments of collagen protein from the thigh bone of a Tyrannosaurus rex. The protein sequence, when analyzed, suggested a closer kinship between dinosaurs and birds than with reptiles. It was not DNA, but it was a whisper from the ancient past, a molecular bridge across the gulf of time. The extraction of protein, though remarkable, is fraught with its own perils. Collagen is a sturdy molecule, yet it too is susceptible to contamination and chemical alteration. The intricate dance of analysis and skepticism continues, each discovery subject to the most rigorous scrutiny. But where DNA crumbles, proteins may yet offer a glimpse, a shadow of what once was. Still, the allure of the actual code, the genetic script itself, remains. Can the ancient code be reconstructed, even if only in fragments? Modern sequencing technologies, such as next-generation sequencing and polymerase chain reaction, PCR, have rendered the deciphering of ancient DNA more plausible than ever before. These methods can amplify and read even minute quantities of genetic material, sorting through a chaotic jumble of fragments for patterns that might once have carried meaning. In the realm of ancient DNA research, victories have been won, not with dinosaurs, but with closer kin. The Neanderthal genome has been pieced together from tiny shards of DNA, preserved in the cool depths of European caves. Mammoths, too, have yielded their secrets, thanks to the icy grip of Siberian permafrost. For these creatures, separated from us by tens of thousands rather than tens of millions of years, the molecular clock has not yet run down entirely. Their DNA, though fragmented, can be coaxed back into partial coherence, allowing us to read chapters of their story in their own words. But with dinosaurs, the challenge is not merely one of technology, but of chemistry and physics. After millions upon millions of years, the very architecture of the DNA has been battered beyond recognition. Chemical crosslinks form between strands, bases are lost or altered, fragments are so short that even the most sensitive techniques struggle to piece them together. The very minerals that preserve the bones so beautifully may, paradoxically, hasten the destruction of the molecules within. Scientists have experimented with increasingly sophisticated techniques to search for whatever vestiges might remain. Mass spectrometry, for instance, can identify the molecular fingerprints of amino acids and proteins, even in ancient samples. Raman spectroscopy and synchrotron radiation can map the elemental composition of fossils in exquisite detail, searching for clues that might point to the presence of organic molecules. Each method is a probe, a question posed to the past. Is there anything left? Can you still speak after all this time? Occasionally, the Earth offers up a rare gift, a fossil so perfectly preserved that it seems almost untouched by time. In the icy wastes of Siberia, mammoth carcasses emerge from the permafrost, their flesh and hair still intact. In ancient amber, insects are caught in mid-flight, their bodies sealed in golden resin, protected from the ravages of water and air. These specimens, though far younger than dinosaurs, offer hope and caution in equal measure. Even in the best of conditions, even with the most sophisticated technology, the passage of time is relentless. DNA, nature's most delicate relic, is seldom spared. The allure of amber has lingered in popular imagination, fueled by tales of DNA recovered from ancient mosquitoes, frozen in time beside their dinosaur hosts. Yet, rigorous scientific examination has shown that, while amber is an excellent preservative for morphology, the shape and structure of organisms, the preservation of DNA within is far more problematic. The resins themselves are chemically reactive, and over millions of years, any trapped DNA is likely to be reduced to unrecognizable fragments, if not erased entirely. The dream of plucking a strand of dinosaur DNA from a drop of amber remains, for now, a poetic fantasy. The story, however, is not entirely one of frustration and defeat. Each failed attempt, each negative result, teaches us something vital about the nature of molecules, the passage of time, and the boundaries of possibility. The quest for dinosaur DNA has led to the development of new techniques for handling ancient samples, new methods for identifying contamination, new standards for scientific rigor. In the pursuit of the impossible, we have learned to ask better questions, to seek subtler answers. And sometimes the search reveals unexpected wonders, the preservation of soft tissues, the fossilization of blood vessels, the hints of pigments in ancient feathers. These discoveries, while not the genetic code itself, offer precious glimpses into the biology of creatures long vanished. The color of a dinosaur's skin, the structure of its muscles, the shape of its cells, these too are part of the ancient code, written not in nucleotides, but in the language of form and function. In the gentle half-light of the laboratory, under the patient gaze of microscopes and spectrometers, the bones of dinosaurs yield their secrets by degrees. Each fragment, each molecule, is a message from a world unimaginably distant. To crack the ancient code is not merely to recover a sequence of letters, but to listen for the echo of life itself, reverberating across the chasm of geological time. Yet even as our tools grow more delicate, our questions more precise, the gulf remains. The code of the dinosaurs, if it lingers at all, is scattered and incomplete, like a book torn into 1,000 pieces and left to the winds for millennia. We may never reconstruct it in full, never summon the ancient lizards from their stone-bound sleep, but in the act of searching we come to understand the nature of time, of memory, of loss and discovery. Consider the paradox. The more we learn about the impossibility of recovering dinosaur DNA, the more we appreciate the fragility of life's genetic legacy. The code that binds us to all living things, the same code that once shaped the mighty sauropod and the darting raptor, endures only as long as the conditions permit. In the end, the story of dinosaur DNA is not just about what can be recovered, but about what is inevitably lost. And yet, the search continues, relentless as the passage of time itself. In the next chapter of our journey, we will explore the ingenious ways in which scientists have turned to the living descendants of dinosaurs for answers, piecing together the story of the vanished giants, not from their own shattered DNA, but from the genomes and bodies of creatures that walk the earth today. For in the song of the bird and the gaze of the reptile, the echoes of the ancient code still linger, waiting to be heard. There is a kind of hush that settles over a laboratory late at night, when the outside world recedes behind insulated walls and the low hum of machines becomes the backdrop to human curiosity. In these halls of quiet intent, illuminated by the cool blue glow of computer screens and the steady pulse of incubators, the quest to unravel time's tapestry begins in earnest. The air is thick with anticipation, thicker even than the resinous amber that sometimes guards secrets from the distant past. Here, behind microscopes and sequencers, tools and techniques have been sharpened over generations, each one another thread in the loom as scientists attempt to reach back into the lost ages and coax forth echoes of vanished life. To contemplate de-extinction is to stand at the intersection of wonder and rigor, where the ancient past is interrogated by the most modern means. Our journey tonight is not one of idle speculation or fevered fantasy, but of methodical inquiry. How precisely do scientists pursue the genetic ghosts of dinosaurs? What instruments and innovations allow us to peer so far into prehistory? And how, step by careful step, has the tapestry of de-extinction research been woven over time? The story begins, as so many scientific tales do, with a fragment, a bone, a tooth, a feather trapped in amber. For dinosaurs, these are the relics that remain, scattered in the sedimentary layers of the earth, waiting for patient hands to uncover them. The tools of paleontology, while simple in their roots, a brush, a pick, a field notebook, serve as the first line of inquiry. Yet these tools alone cannot reveal the secrets of DNA. Fossils, by their nature, are stone. The soft tissues and genetic material of the original animal have long since been replaced by minerals, their organic architecture dissolved by eons of geological processes. But sometimes nature is merciful. Under the right conditions, perhaps a sudden burial in fine silt or the entombment in tree resin, traces of the ancient biochemistry may be preserved. Here the narrative shifts from the field to the laboratory, where the tools become ever more sophisticated. High-powered electron microscopes peer down at the subcellular structures preserved in fossilized bone, or the delicate filaments of what might have once been blood vessels. Chemical assays, tuned to the faintest whisper of organic molecules, probe for the presence of collagen or keratin. These are the opening chords of the De-Extinction symphony, tentative and searching. The true challenge, though, is the quest for ancient DNA, the molecular script that encodes life's instructions. DNA is an intricate molecule made of 4 types of chemical bases arranged in a sequence that is both robust and fragile. Over tens of millions of years, the relentless assault of time and chemistry breaks these chains apart. Water seeps in, cleaving the backbone of the molecule. Cosmic rays and natural radioactivity snip it into fragments. Microbes feast on the remains. What is left, if anything, is a scatter of shreds, far too incomplete to reconstruct the full story with ease. It was in the latter decades of the 20th century that the dream of reading ancient DNA began to move from speculation to experiment. The field of molecular paleontology was born, its pioneers armed with the then revolutionary technique of polymerase chain reaction, PCR. This method, which allows for the amplification of tiny amounts of DNA, was a revelation. Suddenly, scientists could take a few surviving fragments and make millions of copies for study. It was not long before claims began to surface. DNA had been extracted from insects trapped in amber, from the bones of extinct mammoths, even, tantalizingly, from the remains of dinosaurs themselves. Yet science is a stern gatekeeper. Many of these early triumphs proved ephemeral, undone by the spectre of contamination. modern DNA from the scientists themselves or from the environment could so easily slip into the samples masquerading as ancient sequences. The field was forced to reckon with the limitations of its tools. Stricter protocols were devised. Clean rooms, bleach-sterilized surfaces, suits and hoods to shield samples from the modern world. Every result was scrutinized for signs of intrusion. The lesson was clear. Only the most rigorous techniques would suffice to unlock the secrets of deep time. Even with these advances, the recovery of true dinosaur DNA remains elusive. Most ancient DNA studies have focused on more recent extinct species, creatures that vanished within the past 100,000 years, such as the woolly mammoth or the passenger pigeon. Their remains, frozen in permafrost or preserved in the dry cold of caves, sometimes yield stretches of genetic code. In contrast, the age of dinosaurs lies so much farther back, 65 million years or more. The degradation of DNA over such timescales is severe. The consensus among most researchers is that, barring some extraordinary discovery, the original DNA of non-avian dinosaurs is lost to us, its ladder-like structure broken beyond recovery. Still, the pursuit is not in vain. Each failed attempt teaches something new about the chemistry of preservation, the resilience of molecules, the art of distinguishing signal from noise, and occasionally nature offers up a surprise. In 2005, a team led by Mary Schweitzer announced the discovery of soft tissue structures within the marrow cavity of a Tyrannosaurus rex femur. Under the microscope, these structures resembled blood vessels and cells, pliable and elastic after tens of millions of years. Chemical analysis revealed the presence of proteins, collagen in particular, whose sequences could be partially reconstructed. While not DNA, these molecular remnants offer a tantalizing glimpse into the biology of extinct giants. To probe these ancient molecules, scientists wield a suite of instruments honed for the most delicate of tasks. Mass spectrometers, capable of weighing and analyzing the smallest peptides, pass the sequence of ancient proteins, comparing them to modern relatives, birds and reptiles, to infer evolutionary relationships. Chromatographs separate out the complex mixture of chemicals, revealing the signature of ancient biochemistry. Immunoassays, using antibodies that bind to specific proteins, confirm the identity of the molecules detected. Each technique is a strand in the tapestry, weaving together the story of life and death and rebirth. Yet if the direct recovery of dinosaur DNA remains out of reach, the dream of de-extinction persists, redirected and refined by ingenuity. The focus shifts to those creatures whose genetic material is still within grasp. The woolly mammoth, preserved in the permafrost of Siberia, has become the poster child for de-extinction research. Here, the tools of modern genomics are brought to bear. High-throughput DNA sequencers, capable of reading millions of fragments in parallel, reconstruct the ancient genome piece by painstaking piece. Bioinformatics algorithms running on powerful computers sort and align the data, filling in gaps with reference to the genomes of living relatives, Asian elephants in the case of mammoths. Once the ancient genome has been mapped, the next challenge is how to bring it to life. One approach is to edit the genome of a living species, introducing the ancient genes responsible for distinctive traits, thick fur, subcutaneous fat, adaptations to cold, into the embryo of a modern animal. The tool of choice for this work is CRISPR-Cas9, a molecular scalpel that allows for precise edits to the genetic code. With painstaking care, researchers snip out the elephant genes at certain loci and replace them with their mammoth equivalents, creating a hybrid that, in theory, could resemble its extinct ancestor. The process is slow, fraught with technical and ethical complexities. Each edited embryo must be tested, its development monitored, its health assessed. The hope is that one day a living animal will emerge, an embodiment of the ancient genome, walking the tundra once more. But the road is long, and each step reveals new challenges. The interplay of genes, their regulation, their expression in the developing organism, all are subtler than the raw sequence alone can reveal. The tapestry of life is not a blueprint, but a living, breathing pattern shaped by countless interactions at every level. Parallel to these efforts, other scientists pursue the resurrection of lost species through cloning. The technique, famously used to create Dolly the sheep, involves transferring the nucleus of a somatic cell from the extinct species into an enucleated egg of a close relative. The egg, now carrying the genetic instructions of the extinct animal, is stimulated to divide and develop into an embryo. If successful, the embryo is implanted into a surrogate mother who carries it to term. For some recently extinct animals, such as the Pyrenean ibex, this method has yielded partial success. A cloned kid born for a few moments before succumbing to lung defects. The fragility of life and the complexity of development are starkly evident in these experiments. In the case of dinosaurs, cloning remains an impossibility. Without intact cells or nuclei, the process cannot begin. The chasm of time is simply too wide. Yet the tools developed in these efforts, nuclear transfer, in vitro fertilization, embryo culture, have enriched our understanding of reproduction and development, offering new ways to study and manipulate life. There is another path, more speculative, that beckons from the edges of possibility. Synthetic biology, the art of designing and constructing new forms of life, holds the promise of recreating ancient genomes from scratch. With a detailed map of the dinosaur genome, if only it could be assembled, scientists might one day synthesize the DNA molecule base by base, stitching together the chromosomes in the laboratory. The challenges are immense. The genome of a complex animal contains billions of bases arranged in a precise and highly regulated architecture. The orchestration of gene expression, the folding of chromosomes, the interplay of enhancers and silencers, all must be recapitulated for true resurrection. Perhaps, in the absence of direct data, the path forward lies in the careful study of living descendants. Birds, after all, are the last surviving dinosaurs, their genomes shaped by the same evolutionary forces that sculpted the giants of the Mesozoic. By comparing the genomes of birds and reptiles, by tracing the evolutionary changes that distinguish them, scientists can infer the genetic underpinnings of dinosaurian traits. Through experimental embryology, manipulating the development of chicken embryos, for instance, researchers have induced the growth of teeth or altered the shape of beaks to resemble ancient snouts. These reverse-engineered creatures are not true dinosaurs, but they hint at the deep continuity of life, the persistence of ancient blueprints in new forms. As the tapestry of de-extinction research grows, new threads are woven from every field: paleontology, molecular biology, genetics, developmental biology, bioinformatics. The tools become more powerful, the techniques more refined. Each fossil, each protein, each fragment of DNA is a clue, a piece of the puzzle. The work is painstaking, often frustrating, but always driven by a sense of wonder, a desire to glimpse the lost worlds that lie just beyond the reach of memory. The laboratory, with its hum and glow, becomes a theatre of possibility. The machines tick and whir. The scientists move with quiet purpose, their hands steady, their eyes intent. Outside the night deepens, and the stars wheel overhead, the same stars that shone down on the last of the dinosaurs so many millions of years ago. The work goes on, each experiment a question posed to the past, each result a whisper in response. Somewhere, in a freezer or a data bank or a notebook, the next clue waits to be uncovered. The tapestry is still unfinished, its patterns only partly revealed. The promise of de-extinction lingers on the threshold, an idea both ancient and new. And even as the tools sharpen and the techniques improve, the most profound mysteries remain, waiting for patient hands and curious minds to draw them forth, thread by thread, from the deep fabric of time. In the dim light, a new experiment is set in motion, a step, tentative but hopeful, toward the unknown. The story of de-extinction, with all its tools and techniques, continues to unfold, beckoning us onward toward the shadowed horizon where science meets memory, and the ancient world prepares to whisper its secrets once again. In the hush of the world after midnight, when most minds have wandered toward dreams, there is a peculiar stillness that invites reflection. It is a time when the boundaries between the known and the unknown seem to thin, and the vastness of history, not merely human history, but the deep, unfathomable history of the earth itself, lies open before us, its echoes soft but insistent. It is in this gentle darkness that the idea of de-extinction takes on a peculiar weight, less an act of scientific bravado, and more a question whispered to the ages. What does it mean to resurrect the vanished, to summon echoes from the abyss of time? The promise and peril of de-extinction shimmer at the edge of our imagination, a mirror for our deepest hopes and fears. to contemplate the return of the mammoth, the aurochs, or even in our boldest, most secret dreams, the dinosaurs, is to peer into the roots of our own story as a species. Through the lens of revived genomes, we find ourselves not merely as observers of history, but as participants in its unfolding, wielding the tools of life itself. Yet what are we truly seeking in these acts of resurrection? Is it redemption, curiosity, or something else entirely? The world before us is haunted by absences. Every landscape carries the traces of creatures lost. The hollowed footprints of giant sloths in South American caves, the silent forests where Moa once strode, the deep oceans where ichthyosaurs once hunted. We are haunted not only by what once was, but by what we have done. Extinction in the Anthropocene is rarely a gentle fading. It is often an abrupt vanishing, the product of our own hands. In this light, de-extinction can appear as a moral imperative, an attempt to right ancient wrongs. But the path is tangled, thick with philosophical thorns. To bring back a vanished species is to ask, what is a species, truly? The answer is elusive, slippery as an eel in the reeds. Is a species merely its DNA, a string of coded instructions? Or is it the sum of its memories, its behaviors, its interactions with the world? When we contemplate resurrecting the woolly mammoth, we face the reality that a living mammoth is not simply the product of a mammoth genome inserted into a modern elephant cell. It is an organism shaped by millions of years of evolution, by the ice and winds of the steppe, by the presence of its kin, by dangers and rituals now lost. The mammoth's world is gone. Can its spirit be summoned into a world that has moved on? In the silence of the laboratory, beneath the clinical glare of fluorescent lights, the question lingers. If a mammoth calf is born tomorrow, blinking in confusion beneath the gaze of its surrogate mother, is it a mammoth? Or is it something else, a chimera of past and present, an artifact of our longing? The philosopher's gaze slips beneath the skin, beneath the genes, and wonders, is this resurrection, or is it a new creation, made in the image of our own fascination? We may look to myth for guidance, for myth is where humanity has always pondered the resurrection of the lost. Gilgamesh's futile quest for immortality, Orpheus's doomed descent into the underworld, the phoenix rising from its own ashes, each is a meditation on the boundary between life and death, the irreversibility of loss. Science, for all its precision, finds itself entangled in these same old questions. When we wield CRISPR and cloning, are we not Orpheus, striving to call Eurydice back from the shadows, risking that she may not be the same as before? Are we not Daedalus, crafting wings from feathers and wax, uncertain if our creation will soar or fall? The moral weight of these acts settles heavily on our shoulders. For some, de-extinction is a form of atonement, a way to heal the wounds our ancestors inflicted upon the web of life. If we drove the passenger pigeon to oblivion, should we not strive to bring it back? but others caution that the world is not what it was. The forests that once cradled the passenger pigeon have shrunk and changed. The climate that once sustained the mammoth has warmed and wavered. To resurrect a species is not merely to recreate its body, but to recreate its home. Without this, we risk a hollow triumph, a living museum piece without a place in the world's great symphony. There is, too, a deep humility in recognizing how much we do not know. The complexity of life cannot be neatly encoded in a sequence of base pairs. The dance of genes with environment, the subtle shaping of mind and body by countless interactions, the wisdom passed from mother to offspring, these are not so easily manufactured. A living organism is not a machine. It is a process, a becoming, forever shaped by its context. When we contemplate resurrection, we must confront the possibility that some things cannot be reclaimed, that the past is not a book to be reopened, but a river that has flowed on, never to return to its source. And yet, there is wonder here as well. The urge to resurrect is not merely a desire to undo loss, but to glimpse the vastness of life's tapestry, to feel our kinship with the deep past. To stand before a living mammoth would be to bridge an unimaginable gulf, to touch the shadow of an ice age night, to hear the call of a great auk, or witness the flight of a quagga would be to sense the resilience and strangeness of life, to remember that the world is deeper and older than we can fathom. But somewhere beyond the mammoth steppe and the vanished islands of the dodo, our imagination turns inevitably to the greatest of all vanished beasts, the dinosaurs. Their bones have haunted the dreams of children and scholars alike for 2 centuries. Their names, Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, Velociraptor, echoing like spells from a lost world. If we could, would we bring them back? The question is both thrilling and troubling, a testament to the limits of our reach and the persistence of wonder. Here the mystery deepens. For all our advances, for all the precision of sequencing and editing, the DNA of dinosaurs lies beyond our grasp. Time is a relentless eraser. The bonds that hold genetic material together unravel atom by atom in the deep burial of ages. No matter how carefully we search the amber, the permafrost, the shale, we find only fragments, hints, chemical ghosts. The world of the dinosaurs is closed to us, not by lack of ambition, but by the inexorable chemistry of decay. Yet the dream endures. In the flickering light of the laboratory, scientists tease out ancient proteins from the bones of hadrosaurs, reconstruct the colors of feathers from the melanosomes of fossilized wings, map the shapes of ancient embryos from the whispers of mineralized cells. The boundary between past and present blurs, not through resurrection, but through revelation. We may never walk with dinosaurs, never hear the thunder of their footsteps, but we can learn to read their stories in the stones, to conjure their presence in our minds. This, too, is a kind of resurrection, a rekindling of wonder, a reawakening of the connection between our time and theirs. The very word dinosaur means terrible lizard, but in truth these were not monsters, but kin, part of the same great tree of life to which we belong. In the chick's embryonic limb we find echoes of the theropod hand. In the pattern of feathers, a memory of the Jurassic forest. The chicken, scratching in the dust, carries within it the faintest shadow of Tyrannosaurus, the genetic legacy of an age before mammals rose to prominence. Evolution is a palimpsest, and the past is never entirely erased. Perhaps this is the deeper meaning of de-extinction, not a literal reversal of time, but a recognition of continuity, of the threads that bind all life together. In seeking to resurrect the lost, we are reminded that extinction is not merely an endpoint, but a transformation. The genes of the dodo may linger in distant relatives. The voice of the mammoth may echo in the trumpet of the elephant. Even in death, life persists, reshaped and reimagined. And so, as we drift in the quiet before sleep, we find ourselves suspended between hope and humility. The tools of genomics, of synthetic biology, offer us new powers, but also new responsibilities. We must ask not only what we can do, but what we should do. The world is fragile, and the past cannot be restored by will alone. Yet the longing to reconnect with lost worlds is not a failing, but a testament to our curiosity, our empathy, our sense of belonging within the great unfolding story of life. In the end, perhaps the most profound echo of de-extinction is not the promise of living mammoths or recreated moas, but the recognition that we are stewards of a world in flux. The choices we make now about what to preserve, what to revive, what to let go, will shape not only the future, but the very meaning of the past. Each act of resurrection is also an act of creation, a weaving of memory and possibility. The mystery of dinosaur resurrection remains tantalizing and remote, a reminder of the limits of our knowledge and the persistence of wonder. But in the striving, in the careful study of bones and genes, in the dreams that bridge midnight and dawn, we find a deeper connection to the world that made us. The past is not dead. It lives on in us, in every cell, in every story, in every yearning to understand. So the night deepens, the questions linger, and the echoes of the past resound softly in the silence. In the gentle dark, the world's greatest mysteries are not solved, but cherished, awaiting the next mind to wonder, the next hand to reach, the next dawn to reveal what lies just beyond our grasp. As our journey drifts to a close, like a comet tail fading into the hush of space, we carry with us the quiet wonder of dinosaurs whispered back to life through strands of ancient DNA. May this gentle mystery lull you into peaceful dreams, and when the stars align again, return for more dreamtime tales that dance softly across the cosmos.